Good morning. It's 9 o'clock and time for the Tuesday, November 15th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. We're going to begin with an invocation by Commissioner Wesley Davis, followed by the pledge led by Commissioner Zork. Please rise.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity that we have to come before you today to conduct the public's business, and just want to say a special thank you for the opportunity that I've had to be here and to be the designated prayer person, by the way. So the commissioner's going to have to come up with a new one, but I'm sure that your divine intervention will help them find one. But more importantly, help us use your guidance, your wisdom, and knowledge in the decisions that this board makes today, as well as boards into the future that will affect this community for generations to come. In your heavenly name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioners. We'll move on to the agenda. Gentlemen, any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I just have a note that pages 138 through 144 were removed from the agenda.
Okay, any other changes to the agenda?
Amended.
We have a motion from Commissioner Fleischer, seconded by Commissioner O'Brien. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. We now go on to proclamations and presentations. The first is the presentation of a proclamation designating the week of November 14th as Indian River Habitat for Humanity Week. Commissioner Davis is going to present to Andy Bowler, the President and CEO of Indian River Habitat for Humanity, and Jonathan Reckford of Habitat International. Gentlemen, if you'd come up, please. And Commissioner Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Mr. Bowler. This is a proclamation designating the week of November 13th as Indian River Habitat for Humanity Week. Whereas Indian River Habitat for Humanity Habitat is celebrating 25 years of service to this community. And whereas Habitat is the leader in affordable housing in Indian River County by building strength, stability, and self-reliance through shelter. And whereas 420 families have been served locally in 25 years through a combination of 340 new homes sold and 80 renovated homes sold. And whereas 250 neighborhood revitalization repair projects have been financed in the Gifford and Fellsmere communities. And whereas 837 children living in Habitat homes are assured a brighter future with better education and health. And whereas the recipients of Habitat's new and renovated homes contribute $181,113 in real estate taxes in 2015. And whereas over 820 additional families have been served overseas, often after natural disasters such as earthquakes and hurricanes. And whereas the Habitat Restore, being the second largest in Florida, funds the construction of 1 in 3 of Habitat's new homes and contributed $110,397 in Florida sales tax this year. And whereas Habitat mobilized 1,331 volunteers who donated a total of 49,237 hours this last year to support the mission. And whereas Habitat celebrates its accomplishments and looks forward to serving 500 more local families in the next 5 years. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the week of November 13th, 2016 be designated as Habitat for Humanity Week in Indian River County, and the board encourages all citizens to shop, donate, and volunteer with Indian River Habitat for Humanity and the Habitat Restore. Adopted this 15th day of November 2016, signed by all 5 county commissioners. Andy, welcome.
Thank you very much, Commissioners, and thank you for your support over 25 years. And you've heard all the stats and the facts in the proclamation there, but behind the scenes you have supported us in so many other ways. I want to thank the administrative staff in particular for supporting us with the SHIP program, State Housing Initiative Partnership Program, which provides down payment and closing costs for our Habitat homeowners. Also, the faith that you put in our affiliate a few years ago during the mortgage crisis when the NSP3 Neighborhood Stabilization Program was initiated, and the funding that you got, that you passed on to Habitat, was able to rehab so many foreclosure homes here in our county. So thank you for that support as well. And for the donation of lots over the last 25 years that has helped our affiliate as well. And we also thank you for processing all the building permits that we get, and particularly the one for our Habitat Restore that expanded recently, and what a blessing that is to the affiliate as well. And Wesley, I want to thank you in particular. I know this was probably your last official duty as commissioner. Your support has been tremendous, particularly as an auctioneer with the Realtors Association. And I don't know if the audience realizes, but each year the Realtors hold a cake auction. And Wesley does a terrific job of extracting money from people's pockets. He is able to get $500, $600, $700, $800 per cake, and this is the highest price calories that you can buy in Indian River County. So thank you for your support over the years, and many of you have been out on the job site. I remember Peter and your family helping us, and so we look forward to a continued partnership with the county. We've got ambitious goals, 500 local families to be supported in the next 5 years. And so alongside me, we have celebrating with us this week is our CEO of Habitat for Humanity International, Jonathan Reckford.
Right. Thank you. And Commissioners, thank you for the proclamation. I'm really here to honor and celebrate the 25th anniversary of Habitat for Humanity here in Indian River County. Habitat for Humanity has 1,366 affiliates across the U.S., and collectively we're the largest private home builder in America now, but they're not all equal. And Habitat for Humanity here in Indian River is really one of our flagship affiliates in terms of the impact they're having for a community this size, both locally and internationally. And so thank you for your partnership and support, and we hope for many more years of building together in the future. But thank you for your service.
I think you can see how much the community values what Andy's doing by this large crowd that turned out for this proclamation this morning. So
Thank you.
it is one of the flagship organizations. So.
Yes, sir.
Oh, one item. Andy, I'd like to say special thanks to Habitat and to the leadership and guidance you provided the organization. As the SHIP representative, each week or each time we meet to look at our loan packages for the month or our down payment assistance, and you can really see the impact as you see where these people are coming from, but where they're going to with the new home or what other services are being provided to them. And it's always a pleasure to see that we have the funds available to help you guys carry your message and your dreams forward. So thank you very much.
And I think this Thursday we're doing another cake auction at the Realtors Association, aren't we? I have that right? Okay. It's on my calendar, so, okay. Super. Great.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm going to tape an X on the floor.
Yeah, X on the floor for a star.
We now have the presentation of a proclamation honoring Wesley S. Davis for 17 years of public service. I'd like to invite the Davis family up to the podium if they'd like to come. So you're going to be shy today? We feel the same way about having Wesley up here someday. So.
Our son is almost here.
I'll say a few words then to give him more time to come in then. I'd just like, before reading the proclamation, thank Wesley for his service. This board has been a very collegial board, and a good part of that is Wesley's presence on the board, and that's one of the reasons he'll be missed. But I have a particular personal reason for being sort of sad with his departure. When I came here, Wesley took a lot of time trying to get me on the right track here. We had regular...
Still working on that.
Yeah. Well, he, for some reason, he seemed to adopt me right away. He actually even gave me a name, Little Cricket. And he seemed to take a lot of joy for the next 8 years, calling me Little Cricket at every opportunity. So I'll miss that. Maybe you can email me a couple.
Under your phone, right, Bob?
Yeah, well, yeah, it can't be to my...
You can text it to you, Bob, on your smartphone.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll have to borrow Wesley's. But with that said, I'm very happy and honored today to read this proclamation honoring Wesley S. Davis for 17 years of public service. Whereas Wesley S. Davis was born January 16th, 1970 in Vero Beach, Florida. And whereas Wesley married Tanya Patterson on June 23rd, 1990. Wesley and Tanya raised 2 children, Wesley Jr. and Taylor, and are soon expecting grandson Trent Michael. And whereas Wesley began his public service in November 1994 when elected to the Indian River County School District of Indian River County with Superintendent Dr. Roger Deering, serving as chairman of the board from 1996 to 1999. And whereas Wesley was elected as County Commissioner for District 1 in November 2004 and serves as chairman of the Board of County Commissioners from 2008-2009 and 2014 to 2015. And whereas Wesley has been honored for his achievements by the Florida Association of Counties Advanced County Commissioner, 2009, Worldwide College of Auctioneers, 2000, Sunup Center's Auctioneer Extraordinaire, 2007, and Barrier Island Coalition Outstanding Citizen, 2008. And whereas Wesley takes pride in assisting special causes with compassion, enthusiasm, positive outlook, and generosity with raising funds. In recognition for his outstanding service to the citizens of Indian River County as a successful auctioneer for nonprofit organizations, Wesley has maintained a license as a professional auctioneer since 2000, during which time he has successfully auctioned over $1 million for charities within Indian River County. Clients range from private, independent, and public schools, faith-based groups, animal welfare, arts and culture, healthcare, and foundations. He has ensured successful fundraising for organizations such as Indian River County Healthy Start Coalition, IRC Rotary Clubs, IRC Youth Guidance Luau, Beachland Elementary, Treasure Coast Women Auction for Scholarships, American Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity, 4-H Foundation, Harvest Food Outreach, St. Edward's School, Children's Home Society, and Homeless Family Center. And whereas, as County Commissioner, Wesley has been a stalwart supporter of open meetings and helped set the standard for citizen input from the front of the board, and as chairman, Wesley has always conducted meetings in a professional and businesslike manner in an effort to provide the citizens of Indian River County fair representation. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Indian River County, Florida, that the board expresses the most devout appreciation for Wesley S. Davis's 17 years of public service, and the board further extends their best wishes to Wesley and Tanya for continued success in future endeavors. Adopted this 15th day of November 2016 and signed by all 5 members, just 4 of us, members of the Board of County Commissioners. Wesley, congratulations. Wesley, might you have a couple words?
I don't know what to say. First of all, I really do want to just thank God for the opportunity to be a county commissioner. The pleasure's been all mine. Secondly, I want to thank my family. Politics is harder on the family than it ever is on the candidate. Y'all know that as well as anybody, especially whether you actually achieve the office or not. And I think for all those people that get involved in the political scene and put themselves through it with their family, it's the American way. It's what makes this country what it is, and for anybody that's ever been affiliated with running for office, you have my utmost respect, and for those in the future, you always will. I wish I had, there's no prepared speech here or anything like that, but I tell you what, it's just been an honor. It's hard to believe it's been 12 years, and this, my hairdresser doesn't do this. It's naturally there. But one of the things that I've really enjoyed about this job the most is whenever somebody has a problem, they come to you normally with a situation, you listen to them, and it's something that for the most part I can get started, if not get it fixed in 5 minutes. For them it seems like an impossible government wall to climb. And to my commissioners, I want to say thank you, both former, of which I'm fixing to be one, to the future. We're excited about Susan being the new commissioner for District 1. You guys are great. I go through the whole list, and it's just hard to believe that this all started with back whenever, I guess it was me, Commissioner Wheeler, and Commissioner Bowden. We all came in at the same time. And so being the youngest commissioner with the most seniority, I guess that's fixing to change. So, I don't want to, belabor this whole point, but I appreciate really my family sticking through me through it all. Perhaps now they'll be able to go to Sam's with me. And it's been a great ride, and I cannot forget also. I really want to give a lot of compliments to the entire staff and the administration here. We're in good hands. We're in good hands financially. We're in good hands legally. We're in good hands departmentally. We've got some good things going here from all the constitutional officers and the sheriff. It's been a pleasure to work with you. I've seen the best of times and worst of times. When I first got here in 2004, it seems like that we had they were rationing concrete. That's how, and growth was white hot. And then next thing you know, we went through the Great Recession. And it was tough to make those calls and make those budget cuts. And now hopefully we're getting back on an even keel, and we'll be able to have some normalcy for quite a while, is truly my hope. I really do want to thank the ladies inside the office, though. Y'all all know how vital they are as far as the front line, if you will, whenever somebody calls into the office to, whether it's a complaint or compliment, the one we get a year.
The one for the convenience center.
That's right, yeah. But especially, I'd be offered what I've had the opportunity to get accomplished could not have been possible without specifically Misty. And I've always said to her, I said, Misty, we can get a lot accomplished because I won't wear out, but you need to keep me organized and focused. And she was my organizer, and the system that we had was just about fail-proof, and everybody got a call back within 24 hours. And I just simply could not have done that without her help. And so thank you. I'm going to miss you. You were my organizer, so I'm certainly going to miss you. I know I left some people off. I see my son's here over from Lakeland. Thank you for coming, buddy. Love you. My daughter, love you too, honey bun. And my wife, I just can't think enough. I see my mom and my mother-in-law out there too. Everybody, you're the best.
Well, I've heard that there might be some others who wish to say something, and I'll begin with Commissioner O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I have several things. I'd like to start off by calling Tom Heveron of Beachland Cleaning Service up to the podium, please. Over the last years, we get an opportunity to read a lot of proclamations, and several times I've heard Commissioner Davis say that the proclamation for Clean for a Reason is the one that really is dear to his heart and really meant a lot to him. So, while it's not on the agenda, Commissioner Davis, if you would make this presentation, please.
And I guess the reason why this one's so near to my heart is because it caught me off guard. I mean, we do a lot of proclamating up here, and we sign them, and we go through them, and we read them, and sometimes we read them, Commissioner's got to read 2 of them at a time. It's so deep. But this is, whenever I saw it was cleaning for a reason. And I thought to myself, at first, I went ahead and I said, wait a minute, before I sign this one, I got to read it. Because I really did, I rolled my eyes. But then whenever I found out what it was about, this is one that just touched me. And I guess, because I thought little of it to begin with until I looked into it, and it moved me. And I'll go ahead and read it. This is a certificate of appreciation is hereby presented to Beachland Cleaning Service. Whereas Cleaning for a Reason Foundation is a nonprofit organization that offers free professional house cleaning services to improve the lives of women undergoing treatment for cancer. Since its inception in 2006, its MAID service partners have donated over $6 million worth of free cleaning to more than 23,000 women in North America. And whereas Beachland Cleaning Service has been a participating partner in Indian River County since 2007. And whereas Beachland Cleaning Service has provided cleaning service to over 100 women in Indian River County, thereby allowing them to focus on their health as they battle this cruel disease. And whereas Beachland Cleaning Service has helped raise over $100,000 for the Cleaning for a Reason Foundation. And therefore, this certificate is an appreciation presented to Beachland Cleaning Service for their dedication to helping women during a traumatic time in their lives, presented this 15th day of November 2016, signed by all 5 county commissioners. And I think that everybody in here has had a loved one, probably, that's been affected by cancer. And I know that one of the pet peeves of my wife is Monday's cleaning day. And God forbid she were on her back and fighting this disease, and needed this service. It would be, I know the burden that would lift off of her. But more importantly, I wanted to do this as much as for awareness for what you do. For everybody out there that may not have known about this service. It's one that a wonderful service that is provided, one that is welcome, and more importantly, I do appreciate you bringing it to our attention. Thank you.
It's an honor to be recognized by y'all for this, our efforts that we do. We are very proud of the fact that we've helped so many women during a very difficult time. We have 2 survivors that work for me, and it's very personal to us to help those people, and they appreciate it so much to get that day off while they're taking chemo treatments or radiation treatments, and we go in there and we help them, and my people are called angels by these people, and it's wonderful. Just as importantly as the awareness, as you say, we are just one company. We need more companies to be involved. It's not a competition thing. We're all in this to help somebody. And it just is a great way for us to give back to our communities. It's something that we do, and it's something that we do well, and we can all do that and help somebody in our own community under these terrible times. We've taken a leadership role in a lot of ways by doing unique things. We have raised fundraisers and all that kind of thing. We started a new one in which we're offering our commercial customers for every $160 they would donate to the foundation, we would clean a woman's house with cancer in their name. And it's just kicked off, so we're hoping for great things and to help the foundation. But most importantly, thank you, Mr. Davis, for all that you've done for the community and recognizing Beachland Cleaning Service for our efforts. It's a great honor to all of us. Thank you.
How would somebody, other cleaning services, who's the point person? How would they?
They can go to cleaningforareason.org.
Okay.
There's an easy way to sign up. Contributions are made that way. There's a donation page. You can contribute in the person's name. It's all tax deductible foundation. Every dollar that's donated to them effectively helps somebody today. It's not for research, it's not for anything, it helps somebody today. For every $20, you're almost paying for somebody's dues, partner's dues, to be there for 2 or 4 people a month. So it's grown so much. When we started, there was 150 partners. Now there's 1,200. That's cool. A lot of it is to do people like us who make a lot of noise and get people involved. So hopefully next year it'll be 2,400. But it's been a great venture, and I want to thank you. We're very proud of what we do, and to be recognized for that is quite an honor.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Commissioner O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Many of you in the room today will remember 4 years ago when Commissioner Gary Wheeler retired after a long career of public service, and I had taken upon myself and organized a very highly trained technical research team of the Office of Administrative Assistants to go through and look at the record and write up a proclamation highlighting all of Gary's many accomplishments from his long career in public service. And for those of you that didn't get to see that proclamation, I brought a copy of it with me here today. So with Wesley's retirement, I once again put together a crack research team of the Office of Administrative Assistants, and we decided to go through the voting record to look at how Wesley had voted over the years and be able to write up a proclamation on his accomplishments. But we ran into a little problem. As you all know, Wesley has a very large extended family. As a matter of fact, he's related to almost everybody in the county in some way or another. And according to the state of Florida, the Division of Ethics, if you have a voting conflict that might influence a family member, you have to fill out a Form 8B. So in our research, what we found out is that apparently Wesley never voted on anything. By our count, he filled out 36 Form 8Bs over his career. Now, we checked with the clerk of the court, and he confirmed that that was a county record. We called to Tallahassee and checked with the Division of Ethics, and they confirmed 36 is a state record. So, given that record-setting performance, we thought that should be commemorated somehow. So, working with the Division of Ethics, and they have agreed, and I am very proud to announce that as of today and forever forward, Form 8B will now be known as Form Wesley. And with that, I have the very first ever Form Wesley, and Commissioner, I'll present this to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate that. You know, some people get parks named after them, and you know, and other monuments, and you know, like superintendent of schools get school administrations named after them. But I get the form, so thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, before my final item, I have to tell one quick story. You know, Wesley is very involved in 4-H, and the kids have grown up raising cattle and stuff. So I'm out there at the fair one year, and Wesley's back there getting ready to do his auction thing, and I asked him something about a cow, like, well, how do you know a good cow to bid on? And Wesley says, oh, well, come on back here with me. So we go in the back area where the cows are kind of staged up, and he says, all right, now, Pete, you got to rub over the back here. Now, see, on this one, you can feel the ribs. Now, this one you can't, so that means there's some good fat in between them rib bones. So you want to look for the fat. So he's kind of working this way through the cow, and then Wesley kind of starts going, all right, Pete. And he starts looking around. Now, Pete, come down here and grab this down here. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to get arrested for molesting a cow. But Wesley was just pointing out to me where the flank on a cow is, I guess. That's what he says. But, one of the things that made special working with Wesley is his ability to change the mood on the dais. So every time we get stuck in a hot debate or something, Wesley, being our good old country boy, he always had a saying to come up with, kind of, break the tension and get us back on an even keel. So with that, again, the crack research team of the administrative assistants, we've put together a list of what we call the Wesleyisms. And some of these are really good, and I've actually applied these in my career. The first couple deal with political experience and what to do if you're in politics. So one of them is, if you have to start explaining yourself, you're losing. And this one, I think, really went to the core of what Wesley does up here in relating an item to a constituent. Wesley says, if I can't explain it, I need to change it. And so I thought, Wesley, those are both two very good things to live by. And then Wesley had a great way of explaining complex situations. It's like nailing Jell-O to a wall. It's like trying to put the manure back in a horse. You can't do it without getting it all over you. It's like pulling something through a knothole backwards. It's not monkey science 102. You could throw a cat through a citrus tree and it wouldn't touch a limb. I'm not really sure what that one means. But it sounded very country. It had a cat and a citrus tree. Wesley very eloquently explained the Great Recession. It's like a bubble and a snake. And of course, dealing with the Constitution. Once you get protection for pregnant pigs in the Constitution of the state of Florida, it's hard to get them out. And then dealing with constituents, there's two here, and the first one I have actually used and found it to be very helpful. So if he has a constituent, maybe kind of give him a hard time about drainage or flooding in the district, Wesley would get a very thoughtful look on his face, stroke his chin a little bit, say, yes, ma'am, thank you for educating me. So he dealt with that. Now this next one came from the crack research team, so I have never heard this one, Commissioner Davis, but I have been assured that it was spoken to constituents. I'm not going to pee on your forehead and tell you it's raining.
That's right.
And then finally, we all know Wesley. He's been a great, as he said, the county chaplain here for us. And speaking of forgiveness, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I have created an ordinance. So, Wesley, these are your Wesleyisms that will hopefully live by in the future.
I appreciate that.
And is that it for you, Peter?
That is it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Commissioner Fletcher.
Wesley Davis. I could simply say thank you and pass the mic, but we disappoint the folks. I never saw so many people wanting to say goodbye to somebody. You could read into that if you wish, sir.
Yeah.
I did. Thank you. But in all seriousness, you say thank you, and that's what you say to somebody who hands you a bus transfer in the inner city, that is just there for a moment, that just is doing a job, and then they're off to a new job or something else. Or I guess your new job will be cleaning the house on Monday for a while.
You can change that to Tuesday.
And then we know not to call you because we don't want to interrupt that. But it's more than thank you. You have been a true friend, not a Facebook friend. We can't do that, although we can now. And ironically, we have sons with the identical names who are, and that caused a rise too. I don't think that'll ever happen here on the board. But it has been an extreme pleasure to work with you. Commissioner O'Brien has mentioned some of those. I could throw another one that you're probably affixed to. I think it was something to do about the change of government here, charter government, when you said that you can't support it because it's not hog tight and cow proof.
That would be the farmer's fence.
What?
The farmer's fence. It's got
farmer's
to be
fence.
horse high, hog tight, and bullproof.
There you go. Now, who's going to be able to do that for us here? I mean, we have great hopes, Susan. When you're coming aboard, there's a little pressure here because many of us have things to bring to the table, and there's going to be a tremendous void for all of your Wesleyisms, and more importantly, just your passion for people. You had a tremendous passion for people. You did what was right. You did what was right mostly when you yielded towards one of my motions and supported it. That was when I knew it was right. But you did the right thing for the right reasons for the people. You're going to be missed. And I know that I talked about a bus transfer. I think that this is just like one of those whistle stops for now. I think we're going to see Wesley Davis back. I think we're going to see Wesley Davis here or somewhere where we're part of the approving process for your budget.
Thank you.
Right, folks? Now, I know you mentioned Tanya earlier, and I'll tell you what, she shook her head so quickly, left and right. But it would be an extreme honor to see you here. I understand you can't consult for us for some time, but we look forward to you not being a stranger and look for your words. And if we have to quote them for the Wesleyisms, we'll do that as well. But it's been an extreme pleasure, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. You now have left the youngest, most senior, and passed that on to Peter and I.
Right.
So I just have to say thank you for the opportunity, and you're a great man.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you for your input and your civility.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Having known Wesley somewhat before going into office, I did consult with him when I first ran. But I have just kind of a general question by a show of hands in the audience. How many of you in the room are actually related anyway, fourth, fifth cousin removed? A show of hands. Okay, so we do have a few. Now, this is one I think that we'll see virtually every hand in the room go up. Who's been to an event where Wesley was the auctioneer raising funds for a charity or something, and I think that's 100% of everybody in the room. You know, you've touched so many lives and shown people kind of the other side of what commissioners are, the other side of our lives. And when you joked about your family can go with you to Sam's, probably not for a while. Ask my kids of when they go to the grocery store with me. They just kind of, they're just kind of used to it. They know where they can go hang out in the store till Dad gets done, or if you get trapped in the parking lot and they're like, Dad, come on, I really want to get home. You know, you brought a lot of, I like your common sense approach to things and how whether it was resolving, say, Dr. Deputy's place with the alley in the back, applying that common sense. And if you're explaining it and you can't explain it, you're really losing it. You got to come up with a simpler way to fix the problem. And one of the more important things that I've learned over recent events of campaigning is who was responsible for cooking the grits at all the events?
Oh, yeah. The cheese grits.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
They are addicting, to say the least. But your friendship over the years, obviously once you become elected, you know, the conversations that we can have are very, very limited, and because friends of Peter and I might be there to take a photograph of something and imagine something that's taking place that's not. But you were a good guidance figure when I originally ran, and you were very helpful, and I do appreciate that. And anything we can do for you as time goes forward, you have our friendship up here, and I'd like to thank you for all that you've shown me of how to become a better statesman here as a commissioner for the county. Thank you very much.
Commissioner. Thank you.
You know, before the meeting started, I just wrote down a couple words that I thought just kind of epitomized the experience that I've seen here up on the dais with Commissioner Davis. One of them, I think Peter referenced earlier today, which was the humor that Commissioner Davis brought. You know, when we had a tense situation or a difficult issue come up before this board, Commissioner Davis would know how to kind of diffuse the tension and have this board move forward. So definitely want to commend him for the humor that he brought up here. I also wrote down about his insight and the pulse of the community, understanding the issues that his constituents were facing, and how he would be able to bring those to the board, bring those issues up on the dais, and make sure those issues were resolved and addressed. That also leads to just sort of that historical knowledge, those 12 years, you know, all that information, all that insight that he's had over the years and brings to this dais that really helps, I could see helps the board makes decisions. You know, I could be talking to Commissioner Davis about something and he could say, well, I remember this happened back in 2006. And sure enough, I'd go do the research and that would have happened in 2006. And finally, something maybe not everyone here has seen before is the surprise face. That he would bring to this, and we'd make sure we'd have a moment of stop, and Commissioner Davis would say, hold on, let me put on my surprise face. So again, that goes back to the humor, and just thank you for all those great years, and thank you for allowing me to come back to Indian River County.
Thank you, Dylan.
Thank you. Mr. Brown?
Yes, I want to say, you know, we talked about a lot of the Wesleyisms. There's a lot of humor there. I also find there was a whole lot of wisdom and insight in there. I want to add another one that I've heard that I liked, and I admit to borrowing from Commissioner Davis before, a temporary government program. I've never seen anything such as a temporary government program. So that's one that we always keep in mind, because once you get it started, it probably ain't stopping. Never. And that humor, it has helped us have harmony on the board. Sometimes the board's in full agreement on something, or sometimes there may be difference on the board, but it's always done in a collegial way. I think Wesley has definitely helped create that atmosphere. And just those words of wisdom, want to say thank you for your leadership and for always remembering that the citizens are at the top of the org chart. Sometimes staff's getting here and we've got a certain recommendation and this is what we think is best, but Wesley was always good at taking that public input, remembering those constituents, and making that policy decision based on what he was hearing from the residents and what is best for the community. Also weaving through the bureaucracy. I think it's talked about a little bit before. You know, when we're here from our side of the table, we think, oh, it's easy. You go see that person, go see that person. The general public don't know that. So they're having a problem. Somebody contacts Commissioner Davis. He helped weave them through the process, and that's very valuable. And helping those members of the public just get through the process and cut through that bureaucratic red tape. I think that was very valuable for the citizens. And I just want to say thank you for all of your service and your wisdom and leadership over the years.
At this point, we'll probably have some photo ops. I'd certainly like to invite the Davis family back up here and join us with the pictures. We'll take some, I think, with Wesley and the commissioners and the family, and then let Wesley go below if you'd like to have some pictures with us.
Easy. You remember what happened the last time I did that?
There's no vote on that.
Okay.
Then after we break up, we'll have about a 20-minute reception upstairs. But, Jean?
Yeah, I feel like I can't let this pass, and I thank you for allowing me to speak for a minute. I didn't have anything planned, but I did come specifically to be here at the prompting of your wife and family, who, as you said, have been your hugest support. She's done a lot of things in the background on Facebook and to come to the meeting, make sure you're there. I thought, okay, I better be there. So I'm going to see her again. But thank you for your support. And one thing that comes to mind, I have no idea where it is in the Bible, but as everybody was speaking, I can't help but put my faith in action. And the very first thing that came to me is words that I know many of us hope are spoken to us one day, and that's well done, my good and faithful servant. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. And I've worked with you the entire 12 years, and I appreciate the way you've been with staff as a county employee and personally outside of here with 4-H and other organizations. And something that someone shared with me, which I took a picture of it, not knowing that I would use this today, but it came to me a few minutes ago, and I want to be able to read it, and it's short. But it says, a coworker of mine gave it to me a couple weeks ago, and he took it. It has a little tack mark in it, and he said, "Take this, Jeannie," and I feel like it's for you today too. It's called The Bend in the Road, and it's sometimes we come to life's crossroads, and we view what we think is the end. But God has a much wider vision, and he knows that it's only a bend. The road will go on and get smoother, and after we've stopped for a rest, the path that lies hidden beyond us is often the path that is best. So rest and relax and grow stronger. Let go and let God share your load, and have faith in a brighter tomorrow, because you've just come to a bend in the road.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Well, I suppose as Wesley is always one for public comment, I'll just ask if there's anybody else in the audience who'd like to make a comment this morning. Boy, it's a shy
You
crowd.
could turn the cameras off if that helps.
But Wesley, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you for everything that everybody said, and my fellow commissioners. I don't know, I guess in leaving, what I'd like to give everybody up here and the other commissioners that I've had the opportunity to serve with is, and I won't have to worry about it, I guess, after today, but we've always lived by something simple, that it's always appropriate to act like an elected official, but never feel like one. And that's what I like the best about my colleagues that I've had the opportunity to serve with, is truly living by that. And again, I'm the lucky one. I'm the fortunate one, and I'm the humbled one. Thank you very much.
You want to have the girls come up here, Wesley? Yeah. Wesley Jr. and all the ladies? Come on up here.
Then if we bring all the relatives up here. He talks slow.
Everybody get where they can be seen? Hold on.
Supposed to apologize to the family?
Yeah.
Did you want some just for the family up here, Wesley?
What's that?
You want some just for the
Just your
family?
family.
Come on, Mom.
Yeah.
Come on up. Give me that.
I'm sorry, but
All these plaques.
And with that, I'd like to have everybody click their heels and follow the Yellow Brick Road upstairs. Thank you very much.
oh.
The gang's all here, so we will get back to the Board of County Commissioners. We're on information items, and gentlemen, I had a request for a quick announcement about a meeting that's going to be happening in Wabasso, if I can add that to number 7. And with that, I'll ask if there's anybody who'd like to discuss any of the information items that are on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I think there's a couple retirements, just to acknowledge Mike Nixon and his 11 years of service to the county, and Mary Snyder with the library. And Mary Snyder, our library staff have just been phenomenal, and it's kind of a hidden gem and a resource, and I think we're going to miss Mary and all the work she's done. But the library has just been outstanding, particularly the genealogy department, and so thank you, Mary, for your 30 years of service to the residents.
Yeah, I'll reiterate that. The library is very great, and then Mary Snyder's been a tremendous part of that, so I thank her for all the years of service.
Want to make a quick plug about the bond ratings?
Sure, thank you, Commissioner O'Brien. We did have Fitch Ratings, one of the 3 rating agencies, conducts reviews of the bond issues that they rate every so often, and they did just review our GO bonds and our spring training bonds, and they affirmed the AAA rating for the GO bonds and the AA plus for the Dodgertown bonds. So we're very happy with that, that we had those ratings affirmed.
That's excellent news. Thank you very much, Jason. Mr. Palin, if you want to quickly announce your meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Joseph Paladin. I live at 6450 Tropical Way in Vero Beach. The meeting is for the Wabasso Awareness Committee. It'll be at 6 o'clock tonight at the Burger King on Highway 1 in Wabasso. And so we welcome anybody from the neighborhood to be there and be aware of what's going forward in the city of Wabasso. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Appreciate
Paladin.
it, Mr. Chairman.
We'll move on to the consent agenda. Gentlemen, anybody wish to pull anything from the consent agenda?
Move to approve.
Well, before that, I will ask if there's anybody from the public who would like anything pulled from the consent agenda. There being none, we have a motion from Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Flesher. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Constitutional officers, Indian River County Sheriff Lohr, welcome.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you know, this item is kind of a cleanup measure from carryover dollars from last year. Be happy to answer any of your questions.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion from Commissioner Flesher, second by Commissioner Davis. Any other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
After 12 years, all of a sudden there's a flurry of activity down there.
But thank you.
I only have a limited number of motions. I can get my name printed in the minutes after that.
Thank you, Chairman, but I did want to take a quick opportunity to say thank you to Commissioner Davis. I tell you, this is my 8th year, and every year I have the opportunity to speak with each commissioner about our budgets and other things. Commissioner, you've been a friend. You've always taught me all we have to do is count to 3, and that probably should be on your plaque. I'm going to miss you. I can't think of a time that you have not supported the Indian River County Sheriff's Office, and we certainly appreciate it. We're going to miss you.
Pleasure's all mine, Sheriff. Thank you, though.
Thank you very much, Sheriff. Moving on to public items, public hearings, fracking ordinance. Mr. Reingold.
Thank you very much. I've actually asked Kate Kottner of our office to present the fracking ordinance to the board this morning.
Good morning, Ms. Kottner.
Good morning. For the record, Kate Kottner, Assistant County Attorney. On October 18th of 2016, the board authorized the County Attorney's Office to draft an ordinance prohibiting fracking, hydraulic fracturing, and any other process in Indian River County. Pursuant to the board's direction, and after examining various ordinances and resolutions from other local governments, as well as consulting with Stephen James from the Florida Association of Counties, the County Attorney's Office has drafted the proposed ordinance. The proposed ordinance creates a new Chapter 317 of the Indian River County Code of Ordinances, and it's titled Oil and Gas Well Stimulation Prohibited. The proposed ordinance defines several terms, including acid fracturing, cyclic steam injection, hydraulic fracturing, matrix stimulation, and well stimulation, and it prohibits these activities within the boundaries of Indian River County. The proposed ordinance also authorizes the county attorney or special counsel to pursue injunctive relief or any other remedies to cure, remove, or end such activities. So please note that the proposed ordinance is really designed to give the board options. It currently includes a very aggressive approach to the enforcement of the ordinance. Specifically, it includes a provision that whenever there's a violation that occurs, the person who has the legal, beneficial, or equitable interest in the facility, or the person who owns the property, can be held joint and severally liable for the activity that takes place on that property. So the county attorney's office respectfully requests that the chair open the public hearing and take any comments from the public, and then have the board vote on whether or not to approve the ordinance.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Cotner?
I have a couple. This is referring to oil and gas stimulated wells, but what about things such as deep injection wells that the city of Vero Beach just drilled about 100, 200 yards to our north? Ineos's deep injection well, and I don't know if there's any other ones in the plan, but if you're drilling for another purpose and using the same process, does it apply to those uses? If it's the issue of the process of how you drill, if it's for another intended use, does it still apply?
It would not apply to those because this is specifically for gas and oil exploration. That would be for wastewater, storage, removal, and deep injection wells is going to be a very hot topic for the legislature this year, and I'm sure we'll be having some conversations about that. But it's a very separate process. This, with the well stimulation, what they put in the ground is a chemical component to basically fracture the soil, and no one knows what's in that chemical component, and that's included in the explanation of the ordinance. They don't have to disclose that to the federal government or the state, and so the fear is that it could interfere with our aquifer. Does that help answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yes. Is there any other, the Okeechobee power plant that's underway, well, I guess that's Okeechobee County, so it would be a moot point. But I don't know when they drill a well for their purpose of disposing of something, if it's the same type of process or not to create. They're trying to create volume for storage, and in this case, for fracking, you're trying to create volume for extraction opportunities.
And as Ms. Cotner stated, essentially well stimulation is part of the definition. It says as a means of oil and gas exploration. Right. So that's essentially what we're focused on in the regulations as opposed to other activities.
Right. And we were very conscious of the deep well injections as we were drafting this.
Okay. All right, that's all for the moment, Mr.
Any other questions of Ms. Cotner? There being none, I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Anyone from the public wishing to speak on the fracking ordinance item?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if all the other commissioners have, but I've received about 30, 35 emails from folks supporting the ordinance and under this public input.
Okay.
I have as well, yes.
Any other comments from the public? There being none, we will close the public hearing. Gentlemen, any other questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the recommendation to adopt the ordinance for the fracking.
Second.
There's a motion from Commissioner O'Brien, seconded by Commissioner Flesher. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, discussion?
Sir.
As I've shared in the past, I'm not in favor of closing doors on opportunities to make us more energy independent. I will vote in favor of this specifically to create the opportunity to bring it back up for reconsideration. I know a no vote would preclude me from doing that. I'm still not in favor of chiseling away at the state to where there's probably somewhere in the state it's appropriate. I know this is for Indian River County only, but the game plan of the groups is to close the opportunity for oil and well exploration here, and when you look at who's behind them, other states as well. So I'll vote in favor of it for the purpose of being able to bring it back up in the future.
Thank you. Any other comments? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Ms. Cotner. Moving on to public discussion items, there's a request to speak from Brian Hetty regarding representative government. Mr. Hetty does not appear to be in the audience. If he comes back sometime later, we'll see if we can get him back into the agenda. Moving on to departmental matters. Community development, condemnation, demolition, and removal of unsafe structures. Good morning, Scott and Stan.
Microphone.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just trying to get this up here. All right, today what we have before you are actually three. On the agenda, you'll see that there's 4 structures. Today, we're just going to bring 3. The 4th one, staff would like to have removed. Just as late as yesterday, there's some interested parties. I guess the property's in probate. There's an estate issue. The daughter of the owner, both Mims Senior and I guess her brother would be Mims Jr., both passed away, so there's an interest in possibly waiting for probate or so forth to go forward, and we want to notify them properly, so during the notification process, we weren't aware of that. We're going to do some more investigation at the courthouse and probably notify them. I've talked to the daughter and yesterday, and actually left a message today indicating that we were going to recommend removing this. So if we can do that, I'll proceed with the 3 that are on here.
So Scott, that's 6345 85th Street?
Yes, sir. Yep, 6345 85th.
Removed from this item. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So these structures, all 3 of them were inspected. The owners were notified. We notified them to either repair or remove them within 60 days, and that was a long time ago, so we've worked with them on the 60 days. So per our property maintenance ordinance 403, the structures were found to be unsafe, detrimental to the health, safety, and general welfare of the public. So staff's recommending that the board declare these structures unsafe and nuisance and order them demolished. Staff further recommends that the board adopt the attached resolution for purpose of recovering the county's demolition costs. Property number 1 is located at 529 20th Street Southwest, owned by Martha Williams. It's an unsafe single-family dwelling. It's located across the school down there in the Highlands. Structure is currently open and unsecure, abandoned. We have multiple complaints from the community, plus involving gang activity also. Also complaints directly from the Sheriff's Department. There's vagrants, vandals going throughout the structure and making it in an even worse condition. Roof leaks, ceiling area collapsing, it's trashed on the inside, trash and debris and overgrowth on the property. The porch area is damaged and collapsing. Do you need any statistics like sometimes I typically do on liens and so forth? Would that be helpful, or no?
I have it here in the backup, so it's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Property number 2, located at 2385 11th Court Southwest, owned by Helen Cooper. Another unsafe single-family dwelling. A lot of complaints from the Vero Beach Highlands Property Owners Association. Major fire throughout the structure. The building is open and unsecure. Roof damage, ceiling falling in, trash and debris. Again, there's vagrants going in throughout this structure. Property number 3, address is 4795 32nd Avenue, owned by LaCrystal DeMario and Antonio Yorker. Again, it's an unsafe single-family dwelling. Again, it's open and unsecure and abandoned. There's roof damage to the whole system, the rear porch collapsing. The interior is trashed and open to vagrants. Broken windows. It's directly next door within 30 feet of the Holy Apostle Church of Jesus. The owner has indicated that they're interested in the county following through with demolition. And then the 4th structure that we removed. Any questions?
Gentlemen, any questions for staff?
Just, Scott, I take it all the property owners have been properly noticed and everything?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen?
Good. Move approval of the demolition of subject properties 1, 2, and 3, excluding property 4 on 85th Street.
There's a motion from Commissioner O'Brien, second from Commissioner Zork. Mr. Rigby, name and address for the record, please.
8465 59th Avenue in Walbassa. It has been pulled, Commissioners, and I did listen carefully. It had some issues, but the home in question in Wabassa, I would like consideration to have 90 days to maybe to have it, dubbed as a historical. It's built back in the fruit picking days. It's something that we'd like to be able to preserve in that county. So I'm asking at least a 90-day window to see if we can get some historical support for that dwelling.
Mr. Chairman,
What's that? I would think the request ought to come from a property owner. Are you related to the property owner?
I know them. I do know
Well,
them.
I mean, we're not going to do anything for right now.
I understand that.
But I believe before we act on the request, I'd rather have it coming from actually
This
the
is
property
true.
owner themselves.
Okay.
Because understand that if this has got to be brought up to code with all the rules and regulations, I believe it's going to be incredibly expensive because they don't make it easy to restore
I understand that.
homes. Okay, I just
I do
want everybody to
understand.
be going in with their eyes open and.
I do
But the
understand that,
request ought to
Commissioner.
come from a property owner.
Okay.
Commissioner?
Mr. Chairman, and I did speak with Mr. Rigby regarding this earlier today, and we did talk about the pathway in which he had to take, which he said he's fully prepared to do that, and he think he can complete it in 90 days. I just wanted to ask Scott, with the delay in looking at the family's wishes and the legal ramifications, how long do you see about 90 days as well?
Probably beyond that.
Beyond that?
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure that we were telling Mr. Rigby that he could be speaking with the family and maybe perhaps getting into that pathway with ample time to be able to accomplish his goal as well.
That's true.
That's
Sounds
understood.
great then.
Yes.
Very good. Commissioner Davis, did you want to say anything?
No, I'm fine. I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rigby. So we have a motion from Commissioner O'Brien, second from Commissioner Zork. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. And Stan, I believe you have another item. Request for authorization to initiate a comprehensive plan text amendment to mixed-use policy 5.6 of the future land use element.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This particular item, staff is seeking direction from the board to initiate a formal amendment to the text of the comprehensive plan, our mixed-use policy 5.6. Just a little bit of context. Since 2013, there have been a number of economic development initiatives pursued, and Commissioner Zork has kind of certainly been involved in those coming forward. Some of them dealt with the industrial area near I-95 and State Road 60, the size of that area, and building heights for certain types of buildings like the CVS Distribution Center, reducing commercial industrial impact fees, even expanding hours for a go-line operation, and economic positioning initiative, and you all have seen those. One initiative that has been worked on since 2013 is basically looking at commercial opportunities along State Road 60, especially near 66th Avenue. And Commissioner Zork reported to you all last month about some progress that's been made on that, and this is kind of a follow-up to that. In particular, just wanted to draw your attention, and this is in your backup, the State Road 60, kind of going east and west, left to right here, and 66th Avenue on this side. Just to orient you a little bit on this map, the brown area, M1, is residentially designated, medium density. This pink area here is regional commercial. That's where the mall and some of the accessory shopping areas there. The red is commercial industrial, that's kind of conventional commercial, and that extends from 66th Avenue, kind of centered on the 58th Avenue State Road 60 intersection and going all the way over to 43rd Avenue. And this is it's a large node. It has all types of commercial developments in it, neighborhood, community, and even a regional sort of retail in it. And it's about 90% developed right now, and this node, unlike some of our other commercial nodes, is actually capped in our comprehensive plan at 308 acres, plus or minus. And in looking at opportunities for new development for commercial along here, there's certainly mixed use that's been done, and I'll show you a little bit more example of that on one part of the node or adjacent to one part of the node. But in terms of opportunities for mixed use, they're there right now under our current regulations here at 66th Avenue and State Road 60. But there's also an opportunity in working with Indian River State College to have a more expanded type of opportunity, and that's really what this request it involves. I just want to point out to you quickly on this particular map, the area here, State Road 60 down to 16th Street, College Lane coming off of 58th Avenue comes through this way. And Indian River State College properties are kind of in this lighter area here that goes all the way up to State Road 60, part of it, and also over to 66th Avenue. So you have a campus that's 2/3 of it is vacant. They'll be developed in the future here in the western edge. You have surrounding higher density residential property along major roadways that's a candidate already for mixed use. We're looking at maybe an expanded opportunity through what is being proposed. This is a picture from several months ago, really toward the beginning of 2016, of the mixed-use project that's under construction, and it's much more complete than this now, west of the Century Town Center, where the Olive Garden is here. The Chick-fil-A is up and running. That's on this site now. This was a mixed-use approval. 2 other commercial sites, and then multifamily. Multiple access to the project through College Lane and State Road 60 as well. So we kind of have a real-life example of mixed use, kind of adding some commercial area, but also integrating in with the existing commercial node area that's on one side of the node. And with respect to, again, over here on the 66th Avenue side, there's an opportunity in working with Indian River State College to use a mixed-use approach. It would give a preferred development form and also have some of the controls and guarantees that we get through the PD, the plan development process, which involves public hearings. Again, we recognize that Indian River State College, it's a unique opportunity here to mix an institutional use, the attractions and generating ideas coming from that, with multifamily and also commercial. And also the opportunity in time to kind of master plan campus expansion, which is wholly Indian River State College's purview, but in trying to kind of match that up where private development adjacent to it will occur and providing infrastructure for that. This is an image that I believe you all saw last month under Commissioner Zork's item, and showing one of the items that's been done in coordination with Indian River State College. Again, just a concept of consolidating their campus property on kind of one side of what would become a north-south access road from State Road 60, and that would integrate in with their whole campus, and then consolidating property that a developer could have on the west side of this this north-south access roadway. And that makes sense for both parties. The shared infrastructure is a key component in staff's support of this concept, which would actually allow for the campus feel to be really on the campus itself, as well as the commercial development that could occur under a mixed use on this portion of the property. So this would be an open to the public roadway that would be reviewed by Public Works and Indian River State College for its connection point to 60 to line up with an existing turn lane area, and also have a road out to 66th Avenue, bridge over Lateral Lake Canal, and a signal here midway between State Road 60 and 16th Street. And that would allow planned development on the west side of 66th Avenue as well to integrate in with this common infrastructure and really kind of tie in the campus, commercial and multifamily on both sides of 66th Avenue. And this is just an example. Again, what's proposed at this point in time is merely to provide in the comprehensive plan a text amendment that would allow a project to come forward and be reviewed. The project would live or die with what specifically is proposed, but this would allow that to come forward, and it gives some pretty good parameters and a comfort level for someone to move forward with a project. This is just an example of a consolidated Indian River State College campus, that shared infrastructure coming down here from State Road 60 to 66th Avenue, and then commercial development along State Road 60 and multifamily development in other areas of an expanded project. Now, right now, our mixed-use text allows projects up to 40 acres. This would be more than 40 acres And in fact, what we think is needed to properly allow sort of a master plan to happen in this area would be to allow up to 80 acres. Again, it could be different configurations, it could involve multiple property owners, but it would give an ability to really master plan a larger area and fit it in with the campus itself. So staff's recommendation is to have the board authorize staff to move forward with some policy changes, and we have a draft in the backup to change policy 5.6 for preferred locations. A preferred location would be a location like what I just described, next to the State College campus and major roadways, and it would give us a pathway to guarantee major shared infrastructure and really incentivize the overall development. And so the changes that are proposed at this point would be to increase for those types of locations, preferred locations, project size for mixed-use development of up to 80 acres, to increase the amount of commercial area that's allowed in the project area, but have a cap on that, allow it up to 50%, but a cap of 30 acres. In this case would be on each side of 66th Avenue. And to increase some of the flexibility for upfront commercial building area versus residential units, and to allow essentially infrastructure for residential areas to go in at the appropriate time, but not try to equate so closely actual vertical commercial building and residential units, kind of a different market timing for those. And one major item for staff is to guarantee the infrastructure coordinated with Indian River County's Public Works and the State College, the access road that's shared from State Road 60 that goes through to 66th Avenue, a bridge over Lateral A, and a traffic signal that all users in that area could have access to. It would provide a benefit for the State College and for the private development as well. The board needs to authorize initiating a formal comprehensive plan text amendment. You know, what we're asking today is not actual action on the amendment, but action to move forward with the amendment. If you all allow us to do that, we have put, because we have a draft in place, and this is an economic development incentive that the board has okayed, we've put a placeholder for October amendments that we could process and come back on this approximate schedule, January, to the Planning and Zoning Commission, back to the board for a transmittal hearing in February or March, and then a final potentially adoption hearing before the board in April or May. Again, this amendment will change the text and allow the option of a PD mixed use. It doesn't require it, but we think it's an option that would make it worthwhile for all the parties to pursue. So staff's recommendation is that the board direct staff to initiate an amendment to the mixed use policy 5.6 as described. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions that you all might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bowen. Any questions for Mr. Bowen? Commissioner Ryan.
Stan, in the definition of a preferred location area, it's an area adjacent to both the commercial industrial node and a major public or educational facility such as Indian River State College. In your mind, what would be another example of a major public facility where this might apply?
I think we don't have any that existing other than that right now. You could conceivably, if you were to have some other kind of governmental complex or something else that would be institutional like that, it would probably be, it would be public type of thing. And again, I can't think of any, but we put it in there in case some part of the college, for instance, they had a subsidiary or something like that that was public but maybe no longer associated with the State College. Again, just trying to keep it broad in case something changed on the rest of that campus. It would still be institutional use, though. That's the idea.
Okay, thank you.
You know, this is interesting, and I appreciate you bringing it forward. You know, the State College, as I understand it, the campus here at the Mueller Center is larger than the main campus off Virginia Avenue. And I was just out there, I want to say it was last Tuesday evening, and I'd encourage anybody, as far as the commissioners, and if you have any doubts about how I think this project's necessary, is at about 6 o'clock, the number of students that are coming in and leaving for classes, it really surprised me. I don't know what I expected necessarily, but the parking lot was full, and you know, normally when I drive through there, I'm thinking, why in the world did they even put a traffic light there? I see why. It's really, and what this is, in my opinion, trying to alleviate is what we have at the next intersection to the east, as far as 58th and State Road 60. And when you look at this, you've got the main relief canal, and then you've got lateral A. And so you really have two natural barriers that are prohibiting any kind of interconnectivity. And this is making, or has the opportunity to make a lot of strides in the direction of, as far as future traffic flow, and keeping a lot of, in my opinion, traffic off of 58th Avenue and State Road 60. So I think there's a lot of wisdom here.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Zork.
Yes, thanks, Stan, for a great presentation. A couple other things to kind of equate when, just for the public side. The bridge crossing and the signalization of the crossing is about a $900,000 to $1 million commitment that has to be paid for with non-public funds, because it's not a thoroughfare road like 16th Street was. So they're bringing forward a, and how the mechanism that will be financed or paid for, that still has to be worked out, but that's a significant capital expense that they'll have to make. At build out in an optimum situation, as build out with these allowances, you could easily be looking at, 1,000 to 1,500 plus jobs between the two sides of that corner, plus hundreds of residential units that can go in there. So I like it from a number of reasons. One, future tax base for the county, which is great. Housing opportunity near the college campus, I think, is great. The original driving force where this was all birthed from was providing the property owners, the college, and the individual owners on the southeast corner a guaranteed coordinated ingress and egress to their property, because without this, each of those property owners would have sought their own way individually to come in and out, and it would not flow as well as I think this plan will. So it's a win-win for the college, for the community, for future tax base, for job growth. And I'm be happy to move this forward after the discussion's completed.
Any other commissioner wish to comment on it? Anybody from the audience wish to comment on this? Name and address to the record, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Christopher Marine. I'm with the law firm of Gould, Cooksey, Fennell, and I represent Vero 12 LLC. They're the party that may enter into this exchange arrangement that will reconfigure that site that's adjacent to the Indian River State College property. We see this as an opportunity to participate in a pretty unique development concept, which is a mixed-use project next to an institutional facility. It just doesn't happen that much, and if it's coordinated properly and if it's administered right, it can be something pretty special. I just got engaged. I got engaged to help with the real estate elements of it. The negotiations have advanced to a point where everybody's got lawyers involved, and they usually don't want to start spending money on lawyers till they're pretty certain that everything is a go. So they got me involved to help with the real estate transactional elements of it, but then asked me to participate in this as well. They have reviewed the draft changes to the mixed-use policy and are very comfortable with them as they've been drafted, and they've worked very closely with Stan and with Commissioner Zork on it. Wanted to ask for a clarification. One I think is probably a dumb question because I'm just getting up to speed on this. I just got involved in it, this morning. But I'm a pretty quick study. So. One, we characterize a preferred location. It's kind of defined. And then I'll ask my dumb question. It says, a preferred location is an area adjacent to both a commercial industrial node and a major public or educational facility such as an Indian River State College. So I just want to stand and say, yeah, Vero 12 is in a preferred location.
It is.
Okay. I knew that'd be a dumb one, but I feel better. I feel better now that you confirmed that. Next one is maybe a little more difficult and maybe not. I'm a little concerned about the section called timing of construction, and that's in sections 19 and 20. I read it several times, and I don't know if this is what's intended or not, but it seems to create two classes of preferred locations. One is the general class, and then preferred locations that are adjacent to Indian River State College. And what worried me a little bit about it is if Vero 12, and in its partnership with State College, if they had to comply with 19, I think that's not really what their intentions are and what they really think is what's expected of them. It's got that 25% residential development and CO requirement. If you read 20, I think it clarifies that if it's a preferred location that's adjacent to State College, then you have a different set of criteria, i.e. you either build out the infrastructure or commit to build it out. They're fine with that. That's what they understood was expected of them in the first place. Just got a little spooked about 19 because 19 suggests that it would apply to a preferred location by some of the text. I don't know if that's intended or not, Stan, but I just thought we should clarify it.
Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, if I could, I think that's the kind of maybe reconciling the text that can be done during the review process.
Well, Stan, just answer the question then. Is it your thought that the 25% residential development does apply?
Yeah, I think the way that we have it structured here is that we have up to 15 acres in a preferred location or 50% moving forward. So I think both of them apply, but I think we can look at how they both work together, because I think for this particular project, the 20 is the most important part of this. And we can develop options on how 19 will work going forward. But I think if you have up to 15 acres of commercial area that can be constructed, what we've got here in 19, if I can, when we're talking about 25% of the proposed residential development, what we mean in this particular case is infrastructure for that development, not the units, the vertical construction itself. So I think we do need to clarify when that applies and when that doesn't apply.
Yeah, well, going back a few years when we started this mixed use thing, I thought that we did want some level of residential construction completed so that these mixed use projects just wouldn't be a pure commercial development and the residential never ever happens for decades.
Yes, and that's correct. And here what we're looking at is having the infrastructure in place for different segments of the residential that could happen.
But not necessarily residential units,
correct.
Just roads and stuff.
That's correct. That's correct. That would be the case here.
Okay, well, I don't think I would support that, because I do think unless we have that requirement that those residential units go in, this just becomes strictly a commercial project. Even though there may be a road, it'll be a road to nowhere for decades. And that's, to me, that's not the definition of mixed use. Mixed use is mixed use, like the one going in now, where we have the multi-unit apartments coming in, the Chick-fil-A is in, but now they're completing the residential end of it. You know, to me, that's how a mixed use should work, is that you have both going on. And I don't think just putting in a road for future residential is really, in my mind, meeting that 25% residential.
Right, and certainly we would like to see, the development proceed with residential units going up at certain points in time, exactly what you're saying. What we have discussed is to have the infrastructure in place before you hit a certain cap. So that's really the question here, whether or not you have a cap on the amount of commercial, whether it's before you have a road going in or a percent of the total units. I mean, that's what we're talking about here. And it's a policy decision. We're comfortable with infrastructure being in place for the residential, but that's one of the big differences between this and the mixed use.
Okay, just where I'm sitting, I don't think a road makes it for me, so I won't be supporting that change.
And I'd like to just chime in on that. I won't be here when the ultimate decision's made, but it's been interesting because back during the boom on State Road 60, everybody wanted to take the commercial and change it to residential because residential was what was hot. And then towards the end of the residential boom, everybody wanted to take residential and turn it into commercial. And then later on down, everybody wanted to take the multifamily and turn it into commercial. And now there's such a demand for multifamily out there that I think that really, I get what you're saying, and I think we just got lucky, in my opinion, for where the Chick-fil-A is and the apartments behind it. And the reason why I say lucky is that our ordinance worked there, if you will. It was as much of the times of everything coming together. And so don't discount the need for multifamily dwellings in the county. And if there's an opportunity to put commercial where commercial should go, with a well thought out plan, it may be very good planning in doing so. And if somebody's got the commitment for the infrastructure in, that's that's 2/3 of the problem, if you will. Basically, all you're looking for is somebody to come along that specializes in a multifamily dwelling, or somebody that just specializes in just the commercial out front. So I appreciate what you're saying, because you want the plan to be the plan and it actually be followed through. But I think when somebody goes in there and they put the commercial in, and the infrastructure in, and puts a site there that says this is where the multifamily is going to go, in time when the market says it's time to build there, the market will make that happen.
I think Commissioner Davis makes a good point. I mean, my guess is that infrastructure for the residential neighborhood is going to be fairly expensive, and that in order to make the required rate of return that investors are going to have to make, they're going to have to move along at as quick a speed as possible. But for right now, Stan, is it possible to move ahead today with, as you go along in the process, making recommendations for, not recommendations, but choices for both ways? Because I understand
Certainly.
Commissioner O'Brien's point, and I'd certainly like to have more discussion on it going forward, though I have no desire to hold things up today. So
We certainly can, Mr. Chairman, and it's trying to guarantee how much residential development happens before a certain amount of commercial. That's exactly the way that we have it set up in the current regulations. It's an issue we need to address moving forward. We can certainly come up with language going both ways and work with the potential developer on that while we go through the text amendment process.
We do go through a public hearing process
Yes,
for this.
certainly.
And that'll give the public time to speak, and I think we'll probably learn a lot more during that process.
And keep in mind, this is just site specifics so much. It's right there along 2 major drainage canals that are natural barriers that will bottleneck traffic in a specific direction. So you don't have to worry about this being out on, just pick your place in the county. This is specific to
82nd Avenue.
Yeah, there you go. This is specific to an area where millions of dollars of infrastructure to be able to create some interconnectivity, without it is tremendously hampered.
Not yet, Mr. Ballard. Chris, you're up there, like you might want to say something.
Well, I just wanted to add to it. I think I understand everything that was just said. The reality, there's kind of an economic reality at play here, that it's neat to partner with Indian River State College and to share infrastructure. However, the reality also here is that all of the expense associated with the common roadway, the bridge, the signalization, the intersection, all that will be borne by the developer, every bit of it. The state college is not going to pay any of it on the backside. So you're probably looking at an investment of probably pushing $2 to $3 million if you're a developer before you even spend $1 on your dirt or your vertical construction. Those are pretty big expenses associated with making this happen. So what that means the scale and the size of our class of buyers is very limited. You're looking at regional buyers, you're looking at national buyer types, you're not looking at local folks to do this type of thing. I just think it's in everyone's best interest, the counties and certainly any applicants in the future, to clarify this and make it clear so they just know what their rules are and what their expectations will be. I have some real concerns with Section 19 and Section 20 being read together right now, because these types of developers don't do residential. They're not gonna do any type of residential. It's gonna be done by different parties. So they don't coordinate with one another. And I just hope that we can tweak this in a fashion that what the expectations are going to be are clear.
And Chris, I understand, there's a financial commitment. But at the same time, you've got owners of commercially zoned property that are paying higher taxes, and that land could be developed for commercial use. Here you have residentially zoned properties that are taxed lower, and with the mixed use property, we're allowing you to come in and put commercial in there. But in my mind, and in this particular case, we're doubling the amount of commercial allowed. And so I think the trade-off there is, there needs to be some residential, because it is, if your clients just want to do commercial, there's commercial properties out there they can put commercial on. But that land's more expensive, so we have a mixed use to try to be accommodating. But in my mind, there still needs to be that residential component. And I understand there's a financial commitment, but this is allowing commercial to go into residential areas, and so I believe there has to be a residential component within a reasonable amount of time.
I guess we'll have to see if we can make it work. I know that's what the commission intends. I'm just trying to think it from the standpoint of a future applicant and what the expectations will be, because they just don't seem like they're going to happen at the same time. It's not going to happen, but probably not at the same time.
Yeah,
and again, I think that's why, some commercial can go in. So they can start generating that return, but not just become 100% commercial and no residential going in for, forever. So just.
That's all that I had.
Thank you. Mr. Powell, you want to make a comment?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Joseph Paladin, President of Black Swan Consulting. Back when we were doing the original mixed-use ordinances, I was a part of that. And Commissioner O'Brien's exactly correct. The biggest argument we had at that time was going forward with the commercial and the residential never occurring. But going beyond that, as like Commissioner Davis said, in the past, there's been a lot of residential development with the promise of commercial going in, and the residential went forward and the commercial never came in. So as a business point of view today, I agree with what Attorney Chris Marine said as far as going forward with a project in business to have it make sense. As far as your need, you have a bigger need right now for some of this residential development coming forward because of the price structure than you do for the commercial. So I don't think you're going to have a problem. And as Commissioner Solari said so many times, market-driven, the market will drive this to its end. But Commissioner O'Brien, you're exactly correct. That was the argument we had back then. But I think I support Chris Marine's presentation and going forward not to hold this project back. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Come on up, name and address for the record, please.
Yes, my name is David Knight with Knight, McGuire & Associates, here with Chris Marine in this matter. I've worked a bit with Stan on this, and the intent of this policy is to do some good planning that allows for both commercial development and residential development in a plan that addresses parking or traffic, the adjacent properties, the school, the college, this particular location. It makes good sense to do them all at the same time if that was the reality. We've all been through all these times. We've talked about it in a lot of different words, but timing is the big issue. You can't always do multifamily the same time that you can do commercial, and you can't always do commercial the same time that people want to do multifamily, but you can plan for a situation that addresses the infrastructure, the traffic, the master plan for the situation, address where things are going to go, and let the market drive the timing of when which occurs first, whether it's residential or commercial. I'm not trying to force a market in any particular place, allowing it to happen as it truly exists.
Let me ask you a question, if I could, Mr. Chairman. Stan, if it were not for the I'm going to say code that we have right now, is basically this commercial node is capped at 298
308 acres.
280 acres. And that was done, Commissioners, that was done specifically because the mall and the fears of, what was going to come next. Is there any, and you're saying it's how much built out?
Just almost 91%.
91% built out. Now, in our comp plan, it would be allowed for rezoning of residential property because the node is 75% or more built out.
Yes, you're correct. 70% is the threshold. A node
70?
cannot be expanded until it's at least 70% built out.
And that includes even transferring underlying densities in zonings. Okay, and I don't want to, y'all remember where they did that near the hospital and Winter Beach, and et cetera. So now what's coming forth here is a plan to basically allow something that if it was not directly in this, capped by the 281 acres.
308.
308, thank you. I've had a rough day. 300, but it's capped, but it's coming in more under the guise of a planned development and requiring the infrastructure to be there. And again, there's nowhere else this would be able to take place in the county. In fact, if it were anywhere else in the county that was this much built out, it would be a rezoning and it'd be entitled, and they wouldn't even have to put in any kind of infrastructure and bridges that they're requiring to do in this particular area.
If you're adding to the node and just adding more commercial to be allocated.
If you meet our code where it's 70% built out, then you come forward and request a multifamily to be rezoned, then it's an entitled piece of property from there, and you're literally changing commercial or residential for commercial. And then when I say entitled, you just follow the code and you can put in whatever you'd like.
That's correct. This is an alternative to changing the policy and expanding the node.
Yeah.
Correct.
Of which, if it were anywhere else, would be allowed.
Correct. They could come in and ask for a redesignation. That's correct.
Well, my sense is we've pretty much hit the issues on this one. So I'll see if anybody would like to make a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to move forward with staff recommendation on the text amendment language.
I'll second it.
Mr. Chairman, just under discussion, I'll vote to move this forward, to let staff keep working on it and to have the public hearings and all that. Not saying I'll vote for it when it comes back up again, but certainly move it forward now.
Thank you very much. Any other comments, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Stan. We now move to Public Works. There's an as-built resolution and final assessment roll for the 51st Avenue Petition Millings project between 65th Street and 67th Street. Mr. Speaker, good morning.
Approval and job well done for coming in under budget.
Second.
Any other questions on this? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. We will now move to county attorney matters. Approval of mediated settlement agreement parcel of property owned by Kevin and Paula Jones located on 27th Avenue Southwest at the South Main Relief Canal. Good morning.
It is still morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Bill DeBrawl on behalf of the County Attorney's Office. Before I get into the matter, I just wanted to recognize Commissioner Davis. As I said to him earlier, 30 years ago when our hair was darker and our belts were shorter, I had the pleasure of meeting the high school Wesley Davis as he was then involved in Future Farmers of America and forestry competitions way back when. Watched him rise to hold state office with FFA as far as being in the high school ranks, and then 12 years ago when he came on here, watched him become just a very fine commissioner. And I just wanted to recognize you, Wesley, as far as your growth, and look forward to continue seeing you grow in the future.
Thank you.
A job well done, sir.
Thank you very much.
Anyway, as far as the matter at hand here with the nutrient removal system, this system is part of the Osprey Marsh project. There at the 27th Avenue intersection with the South Main Relief Canal, we have a system of a conveyor belt that removes solid materials from the canal before the water hits the pumps. There are large pumps that are submerged just downstream from this conveyor system, and the system goes ahead and removes the solid materials so they don't get sucked into the pumps, drastically reducing the need for maintenance and repairs on the pumps. And once you start messing with submerged pumps, you're messing with a lot of dollars as far as maintenance and repair, and the entire system would go down. Construction started in this matter back in 2013. Immediately upon construction of the removal system, we ran into some challenges. Originally, this was designed to go on the south side of the canal. Due to concerns expressed by the Farms Water Control District, it was then moved to the north side of the canal. When construction began, they hit the drain field that was encroaching into the farm system, pretty much eliminating most of the drain field for the house that's there owned by Kevin and Paula Jones. Afterwards, there was a need to drive sheet piles down for the construction of the removal system. There was a need now to go ahead and monitor the seismic activity caused by the pile driving with the sheets. Although all of the terms or all of the data collected by the county's seismic engineer revealed that it was within normal limits, the Jones complained of cracking in the ceiling, cracking in the foundation, cracking in the septic system itself as far as the septic tank. Unfortunately, the house is quite old. It was built before building permits were a necessity, so we're gauging that the age of the house is probably about 50 years old, and it was all owned at one time by one owner and then parceled out to his children and relatives afterwards. After the project was complete, the challenges continued. The conveyor belt would go ahead and operate and remove the solids, dump them into a dumpster, and the dumpster would then be periodically emptied. We found that a species of apple snail seemed to be popular in this conveyor belt removal system, that the apple snails would then be deposited into the dumpster and left to ferment in the summer sun, causing quite an odor. During the construction process, when the concrete was poured, cracks developed in the concrete. Epoxy was used to seal up the cracks. That odor and aroma from the sealant and the epoxy caused the Joneses to move out for a time being because of the aroma. Our office had complaints after the notice was filed with us of the apple snails and the other animals or whatever that would be picked up in the system would go ahead and be deposited in the dumpster and just kind of left to rot. We received notice from the Joneses' attorneys, according to statute, that the county, in its actions, had created a nuisance next to the Jones property. As you can see in your backup, the distance between the system and their side wall is quite short. It's only about 14 feet. And they claimed a nuisance and an inverse condemnation, a partial taking or a total taking of the property, of the Jones property. In an inverse condemnation suit, it works a little bit different than the regular eminent domain that you're used to. The first part of an inverse suit is you must prove that there is a taking, in this case, a taking by a nuisance. If that condition is met, then you go on to determine the amount of damages afterwards. In both instances, the county is on the hook for all the costs and all the attorney's fees if a nuisance is found in all or part of the taking. So we utilized an idea to go ahead and mediate this matter before suit was filed. We used the mediation services of Randy Brennan. Thankfully, the Joneses' attorney and Mr. and Mrs. Jones were agreeable as far as a quick mediation before suit, and we came up with the settlement agreement that you have before you. What we would pay to the Joneses and their attorneys and any experts would be the sum of $85,000. That's in full and final settlement of all costs. We won't be coming back to you in this matter for any additional fees. Secondly, that there would be a twice emptying of the dumpster at the nutrient removal site. We would cooperate with the Jones in permitting of a new septic system that they would pay for. They would also allow a curb to be installed on the north side of the removal system to prevent runoff from coming onto their property as they had claimed. Again, that would be at their expense and cost. And then we would allow them to go ahead and put in some landscaping along the fence. Again, their cost and their maintenance to act as a screen for the system. The way we kind of came up about this settlement is that we recognized that in order to make the Jones whole, that a new septic system would have to go in, that they should probably, that their claims of damage to the house would hold some merit, as well as the nuisance and aroma of the dumpster there. And again, having the opportunity to mediate this one early and save on the expert witness fees, we thought that this was a good idea. So staff's recommendation, after reviewing the evaluation, the risk assessment, is to go ahead and settle at the $85,000 in full and final satisfaction. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Any questions for Mr. DeGraw? Anybody from the audience have any questions? Gentlemen?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion to approve from Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Zork. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. As always, you did a good job.
Move on to 1016 Booker Street, County deed to Fellsmere. Mr. Rangel.
Thank you very much. In 2004, the property located at 1016 Booker Street is ceded to the county. In 2009, the county had actually deeded this property to Every Dream Has a Price. We had included in that various restrictions regarding the use of the property as for affordable housing purposes. Unable to utilize the property, Every Dream Had a Price essentially conveyed the property back to the county the next year, and the county's had the property ever since. City of Fellsmere has expressed an interest in this property, either being used for parking or drainage or also affordable housing. The city has several properties that are located nearby and also has 3 lots adjacent to the property. Simply, County Attorney's Office recommends that the board approve the attached resolution and the deed and convey the property to the city of Fellsmere. And I'm here for any additional questions.
Move staff recommendation.
Motion from Commissioner Fleischer, seconded by Commissioner Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes 5-0. This time I'd like to take a 5-minute break. Thank you. Item is my farewell to Commissioner Davis, and it is about something which recently occurred with the Spoonville Marsh. And I apologize in advance. This is a little long and a little weedy in parts and a little dry, but please bear with me. A county resident, Barry Shapiro, has made allegations about the effectiveness of Indian River County Spoonville Marsh. Among other things, Mr. Shapiro alleges not only an environmental tragedy, but also a potentially criminal cover-up of the truth by our county officials. Shapiro asserts that the Spoonville Marsh is not properly functioning and is damaging the Indian River Lagoon. I am addressing this issue as opposed to Mr. Burke, our utility director, or Mr. Reingold, the county attorney, because I believe, as will be made clear, the Spoonville conspiracy was not driven by any substantial problems at the Spoonville Marsh, but was simply a nasty and sophomoric attempt to alter the outcome of the last elections, specifically my county commission race against Jay Kramer. As Shapiro writes, County Commission Chairman Bob Solari has aggressively defended the Marsh system and is currently basing his re-election campaign on the benefits to the county these marshes provide. Perhaps the best place to begin this story is with a short description of the Spoonville Marsh. As many residents know, county drinking water is supplied from wells, which draw water from the Floridian aquifer. The majority of county water is processed at the North County Reverse Osmosis Treatment Plant. A byproduct of the reverse osmosis treatment process is demineralization concentrate, also known as brine. Basically, water is drawn from the aquifer, goes through the reverse osmosis process, undesirable minerals and salts are removed, the potable water is then sent to our water customers, and the brine concentrate is disposed of. Roughly 20% of what is drawn from the aquifer ends up as brine concentrate. For years, this concentrate was simply put into a canal, which led to the Indian River Lagoon through the North Relief Canal. In 2002, the Florida Department of Environmental Protection, FDEP, asked the county to come up with an alternative discharge method for the brine concentrate. The most obvious solution, one chosen by the city of Vero Beach for its brine, was to construct a deep injection well to dispose of the brine by pumping it back into the aquifer. The county chose a much more innovative method of disposal, the Spoonville Marsh, which would create a wetland from an old mosquito impoundment site adjacent to an abandoned citrus grove, both of which were being overrun by invasive species such as pepper trees. When FDEP discussed the project with the county, FDEP was clear that any permit would require the project to clearly demonstrate a net environmental positive benefit. This net benefit would require not only that the treated water entering the lagoon be cleaner than existing water in the lagoon, but also demonstrate a net increase in wildlife populations, including birds and fish and other marine life. The Spoonville Marsh is located on a 67-acre parcel of land owned by the Grand Harbor Development Corporation, from which the county received a perpetual easement. It is bordered by the lagoon to the east, Grand Harbor Development and the North Relief Canal to the south, undeveloped Grand Harbor land to the west, and an undeveloped parcel of conservation land owned by the Indian River Land Trust to the north. The land trust property and the Spoonville Marsh are separated by an FDOT ditch, which drains water from US 1. The Spoonville Marsh process, while innovative, is fairly simple. The brine concentrate from the water treatment plant is piped to mixing areas located on the western portion of the Spoonville Marsh. Polluted lagoon water is pumped to the same location, mixed with the brine, and then moves through a series of ponds, runnels, restored wetlands, more runnels and natural wetlands, and eventually, after removing significant amounts of nitrogen and phosphorus, returns to the lagoon. The Spoonville Marsh has been operating for just over 6 years, and given the purpose, can be considered a great success. It is clear to anyone who has visited the site that there has been a marked increase in both birds and marine life, and regular testing documents the removal of significant amounts of nitrogen and phosphorus. In the 12 months corresponding to the county's 2015-16 fiscal year, over 13,000 pounds of nitrogen and more than 2,300 pounds of phosphorus were removed from nitrogen and phosphorus-laden waters, which, but for the Spoonville Marsh, would now be polluting the Indian River Lagoon. I am proud of the work that the county has done in the Spoonville Marsh. It is a cutting-edge environmental project that everyone in the county can be proud of. Is it a perfect project? No. Is it polluting the lagoon? No. Is it a step towards restoring the lagoon to better health? Yes, it most certainly is. Now on with our story. On the evening of Friday, August 19th, I received a somewhat frantic phone call from a supporter telling me about a disturbing story about the Spoonville Marsh that was running in Mark Schumann's blog, Inside Vero. The Inside Vero blog begins with a picture of one of my campaign mailers, which touts the benefits of the Spoonville Marsh. The first paragraph states, County Commissioner Bob Solari, who is running for re-election, has made the effectiveness of the Spoonville Marsh an issue in his campaign. Schumann then wrongly calls the Spoonville Marsh a wastewater treatment facility. The bulk of the blog consists of an email sent on August 18, 2016, from Barry Shapiro. The email is, quite frankly, bizarre. It talks about a meeting that Shapiro is asked not to tell anyone about. The meeting was attended by people whose names he cannot disclose. It talks about a report written by someone whose name cannot be revealed. The report evidently says that the Spoonville Marsh is bad, but the report is not attached to the email. Interestingly, though, Shapiro does state, if you want to read the report, I will make it available to you. At the county, we were interested in reading the report. Mr. Burke emailed Shapiro asking for a copy on August 23rd. Shapiro replied the same day, writing that it would be available in the next couple of days. Having heard nothing from Shapiro, Mr. Burke emailed back on August 30th. Shapiro replied September 1st, replying in part, I have spoken with the key authors of the report, and at this time they have asked me not to send the report directly to you. Shapiro goes to a meeting he cannot talk about, attended by attendees he cannot disclose, upset about a report he will not share with us, written by an anonymous author and vetted by leading scientists and environmentalists who are not disclosed. What do we know about Shapiro? Shapiro states, clearly I have a political axe to grind. In Kramer's race against me for the county commission, Shapiro gave Kramer a $950 in-kind donation. On August 23rd, Shapiro had a letter to the editor published on TC Palm in support of Kramer for county commission. And, in his own words, Shapiro is not an environmentalist or an expert in any way when it comes to issues of our ecology. But Shapiro does have a media background, which he used to try to get Kramer elected to the county commission. While Shapiro would not send the county a copy of the report, the county did obtain one, and Mr. Burke notified the Florida Department of Environmental Protection about Shapiro's allegations. Given the nature of the report and its context, released 2 days before early voting, written and vetted by undisclosed people, championed by a supporter of my opponent, this should have ended things and would have had 32963 not published a story about it. While the story itself is written at the same level as Shapiro's email, it will serve to address some of the allegations Shapiro has made about the Spoonville Marsh. The article is from the October 6, 2016 issue of 32963. The 32963 article on the Spoonville Marsh runs under the headline, Environmentalists Call Spoonville Marsh a Toxic Waste Dump. The article then lists allegations including marsh water that is overflowing onto environmentally sensitive land to the north that is owned by the Indian River Land Trust. Supposed disappearing water that was not accounted for. An outflow meant to facilitate the flow of water back to the lagoon was not functioning. Shortly after the facility was constructed by the FDEP, cited the county for permit infractions for failure to construct the disposal system at the Spoonville Marsh site in accordance with the approved design. And the Spoonville Marsh is detrimental to fish and wildlife. Please note, despite the purposely inflammatory headline, quote, environmentalists call Spoonville Marsh a toxic waste dump, quote, unquote, none of the allegations have anything to do with pollution. Yes, the article notes that Barry Shapiro says that the Spoonville Marsh is a liquid toxic waste dump, but Mr. Shapiro also clearly states that he is not an environmentalist or in any way an expert in any way when it comes to important issues about our ecology. Shapiro also states about the report in question, it's Greek to me, but maybe you can decipher it. So, please think about this. The only basis for the nasty headline is a statement from someone who claims he is not an environmentalist or an expert in any way when it comes to important issues of ecology, who in fact says of the report, upon which he bases his malicious, politically motivated comment, it is Greek to me, but maybe you can decipher it. It's Greek to me. Now, for Mark Schumann and his coterie of useful idiots, and let me here give a special shout out to B. Gardner, it's Greek to me is an idiom in English expressing something that is not understandable. So again, the nasty headline and tendentious article in 32963 is based on comments of an admitted non-expert who clearly states that he does not understand the report about which his statements are based. As for the mentioned allegations, marsh water that is overflowing onto environmentally sensitive lands to the north that is owned by the Indian River Land Trust, yes, that might be some truth to this, and our county staff has been working on this issue with FDOT, Grant Harbor, and the Indian River Land Trust since at least February of 2016. Supposed disappearing water? Perhaps, but it may just be evapotranspiration and seepage. In any case, there is no indication of harm to anybody or anything. A blocked outflow meant to facilitate the flow of water back to the lagoon? Yes, there is, but our permit with FDEP allows us to use the outfall to the south. Shortly after the facility was constructed, the FDEP cited the county for permit infractions for failure to construct the disposal system at the Spoonville Marsh site in accordance with the approved design. This is true, but before the facility started operating, the county suggested and the state approved 4 major additions: a debris screen at the intake point, floating plant maps, oyster seed structures, and seagrass zones. The Spoonville Marsh is detrimental to fish and wildlife. This is ludicrous. The mystery report does not even mention fish and wildlife. A pre-construction wildlife survey, not including water-dependent species such as fish, identified 17 species on site. A 2003 wildlife survey identified 53 species on site during the winter survey and 58 species on site during the summer survey. While the author of the article in 32963 does mention a number of unsubstantiated rumors, she does not bother to mention that the promulgator of the report was a $950 J. Kramer contributor who just a couple of weeks prior had a letter of support for Kramer's campaign published in the local newspaper, or that he admittedly did not understand the report that she probably had not read. This is information that was readily available and might have been useful for a reader who wanted to make a fair appraisal of the issues discussed. Is there any wonder that people do not trust the press these days? If the writer had actually decided to investigate the allegations instead of simply regurgitate them, she might have discovered and then been able to question the apparent author of the report. Mr. Burke did. He examined the electronic file that Shapiro had sent to a member of the press, which was forwarded to the county. To confirm Mr. Burke's discovery, the file was sent to our computer services manager, Basil D. Dancy. I will quote from Mr. Dancy's report. I have been able to authenticate the identity of the author of a report presentation referenced by Barry Shapiro in a recent news article questioning the efficacy of a county facility, Spoonville Marsh. While we have not received a copy of this report directly from Mr. Shapiro, see email dated September 1st, 2016, a copy was sent to Mr. Vincent Burke, Director of Utility Services, by Mr. Thomas Hardy on August 26, 2016, copy attached. Upon investigation of the file submitted by Mr. Hardy, it is apparent from the properties of the file that it started out as a PowerPoint presentation authored by Mr. Carter Taylor. It was then converted to an Acrobat PDF file on August 25, 2016. These pieces of information are set by the program used when the file is created. The created date references when the file was converted to the PDF format, not the original presentation date. We would need to get a copy of the original PowerPoint file to see when it was created, but from viewing the PDF file, there are dates in the presentation which imply the presentation was created on August 5th, 2016. Due to the nature of the PDF file format, the information listed cannot be changed after the file is created, so no user could alter the data referenced and displayed in the screenshots attached without these changes being readily apparent. Who is Carter Taylor? The only Carter Taylor I know of is the director of the Indian River Neighborhood Association, known as the IRNA. Coincidentally, the IRNA endorsed and contributed to Kramer's campaign and is also one of Inside Bureau's biggest advertisers. But could the same Carter Taylor actually be the one described as Shapiro as, quote, the author of the report, the whistleblower who cannot come forward? The Carter Taylor I know has had a number of conversations with me. The last significant conversation was one he had in my office about the county's proposed short-term rental ordinance. That day, he indicated that he was perfectly happy with the direction the county commission was taking. The Carter Taylor I know could have no realistic fears about coming to any county commissioner with any information about any county activity. Yet, the IRNA member Carter Taylor, who was part of the IRNA interview committee which chose to endorse Jay Kramer over me, is the only Carter Taylor I know of in the county. As sad as it is to believe that he was the one who authored the benighted scurrilous report, until another Carter Taylor is discovered, I will believe that he and the author of the report are one and the same. I now draw near, but I'm not quite at the conclusion. A number of things are hopefully clear. The Shapiro report was nothing more than a scurrilous last-minute Hail Mary to influence a local county commission race. The Spoonville Marsh is not perfect, but it is a great cutting-edge project that is, literally, as we are sitting here now, helping to return the lagoon to a healthier state. I am proud of this organization for having the guts and foresight to champion the Spoonville Marsh, and I am proud of all the county employees, consultants, and contractors who built and operate the facility. I'd like to thank Thomas Hardy, the author and publisher of the Vero Communique, for his well-written and researched articles about the Spoonville Marsh. For anyone interested in the truth, I recommend they visit the Vero Communique website and read his Spoonville Marsh articles. I'd also like to thank the Press Journal. The Press Journal received the same information as 32963, but they did not respond like Pavlov's mad dog and immediately regurgitate the Shapiro missive. They did ask me about it during a candidate interview, and this was certainly a reasonable and professional approach. I've come to expect little from the progressive 32963. It is sad that 32963 cannot simultaneously hold on to its progressive ideology and maintain professional standards. The saddest creature in this whole affair may be the pathetic blogger Mark Schumann, the progressive useful idiot of choice. He does respond like Pavlov's mad dog to anything negative about the county, regardless of how ridiculous it is. The best description of Mark Schumann that I've come across is from a book review that I read in the October 1st, 2016 Wall Street Journal. Quote, as one of his fellow radicals wrote, everyone who contradicted him he treated with abject contempt. Every argument that he did not like he answered with biting scorn at the unfathomable ignorance that had prompted it, or with the opprobrious aspersions cast upon the motives of him who advanced it. The book review is about the progressive Karl Marx, but it artfully describes the progressive blogger Mark Schumann. Mark Schumann calls for civility, but is the most uncivil of people. Schumann calls for the truth, but is the most disingenuous of bloggers. Schumann trumpets for tolerance, but is the most intolerant of the intolerant strain of modern progressive. The worst thing about Shapiro's pathetic attempt to try to alter the election with a Spoonville conspiracy is that it wastes the time and energy of a lot of good people. Time taken away from doing the type of work that they like to do, the making of Indian River County a better place for the people who live and work here. The good news is that this election season is now over and the Barry Shapiros will disappear, at least for a while. The better news is that there are few Barry Shapiros and Mark Schumans in Indian River County. The vast majority of residents are good people doing good things for themselves, their family, and their community each and every day. It is this vast majority of good, decent people who have made this a great county, the county that I am happy to live in and proud to serve. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could you just repeat that compliment on B. Gardner one last time? Sorry, couldn't help myself there.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I did pick up a few things, and I just wrote it away from some of the you had a little political overtone tone in that, but I would say that I learned two things. One is we hear that the grapefruit industry is under serious threat and has a lot of concerns, and you just clearly displayed that there's plenty of grapefruits. You showed an abundance of grapefruits in your delivery, and I appreciate that. And the other is that several of us are, you got to read, yeah. And several of us were involved with moving forward the Spoonville Marsh, and then all of us were involved with moving forward with the oyster project as well, and that is right at the outfall of the Spoonville Marsh. So I guess some of this was gotten right, and I just want to say that I'm fully proud of all of the endeavors with the Spoonbill Marsh and with any projects that have been subsequently related to the Spoonbill Marsh, and I think it's a great success.
Absolutely do I. Thank you very much. We can continue in the agenda. Next up is Commissioner Tim Zork, privately funded Indian River Lagoon pilot project.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Wanted to pass on to my fellow commissioners an offer that has been made by Greenfield Resources. They're a company based out of Michigan that has, for a number of years, been cleaning some of the more polluted waters around the world. And I had the opportunity to meet him for lunch, and he said they're very interested in Florida's water problems, and they would like to bring down their equipment to see how well it would work in the freshwater pollution environment that we have, not just here in Indian River County, but all the water that kind of flows from the middle of the state out through canals and drainage ditches into the lagoon and other water bodies, has a number of similar characteristics that of what's in the water. So during the lunch, he offered to break it into two parts. One would be a phase one. They would send down a crew from Michigan to grab large grab samples up into the hundreds of gallons from a number of locations around the county along the canal network. Obviously, we will have to coordinate, and I have met with David Gunner, asking him for some guidance and direction. And we all know David. He has a very flavorful way of saying what he'll help you with and what he won't. And so we know we'll work closely with him on where we would grab the water samples from, working with David and some of his staff. Upon the completion of the processing of the water samples, they would look to bring what I would call a mobile unit down that they would run for a period of time. Obviously, what's in the water column in our canal systems changes based on the rain flow, the groundwater movement, and so the duration of that would be, if we get through the first part and it shows that yes, that their technology has very promising results, which I think it will. Phase two would be not defined at this point, because depending on when they would start, what is the rainfall season that we happen to be in, because from my perspective, I'd like to capture data as long of a period as we could to see how does it work when the water column changes and the levels of what's moved in the groundwater moves into the canal system, and how does it react to those processes. So this is a no-cost pilot project by their company. The only thing that I said I think that the county would go along with, one is some logistical support with our engineering and suggestions. Obviously, most of this will take place on the Indian River Farms canal right away, so they would work with them as well. Depending on where the temporary mobile unit that they have would go, if the county happens to have an electric supply nearby where we could tap into to run their system is powered by electricity, to look at providing an electric connection from whether it's on the main relief canal or the south relief canal by Osprey Marsh, where we have obviously electric that's running equipment that's down there, and just kind of a cooperative that we would assist them managing through some of these processes that would be more defined after phase one is completed. So I don't know if we actually have to have, in the backup information is some information on Greenfield that was brought in from their website. They have offices in the United States and in China, and I believe in one other place, and they said they've cleaned up things in large water volumes that have much worse things than what we have in our water. They have received copies of 12 months of the water sampling data from Indian River Farms, so they kind of know in advance what they'll be looking at removing from the water. And with that, will entertain any questions that I may or may not be able to answer, but I could get answers for you if there's anything specific.
I have just one comment. I think it sounds like a great project. Whenever we can get something that's for near costless to the citizens, it's good, and I look forward to the information. But the only thing I have a small problem with is on they discuss suggestions at upcoming meeting with staff about an individual commissioner going to staff and discussing the test and stuff like that. I think that'd be more appropriate if the questions were just asked with all of us present, so we could all get the information at the same time.
Okay.
And that's the only question
I'd
have of it.
And it, depending on how this goes today, they'll send down some, and my plan would be is to line up appointments for them to work out some of those parts without a commissioner involvement per se. There may be, I think with David Gunner, I think I probably would at least be there for the introduction. I think that's
Good luck with that.
That and a bag of doggy treats for his dog. We know that's David's favorite child, and let staff work from a technical side. I'm not an engineer, but we have some great ones on staff, Keith and some of the other ones that could provide some information, and then have them come back and make a presentation or questions here for the full board to see.
Fine. Any other questions?
I agree with you, Mr. Chairman. I'm open for anything that's going to bring us back to a recovery level for our lagoon. I'm not particularly impressed by a lot of the mechanical devices that have come forward. There's projects that were started as early as 1969. I think it was when the men landed on the moon. And
Mets won the World Series.
And the Mets won the World Series, that's correct. Do you want to go through any other? We can do 1969, the Amazing Mets and all that?
Got me off gambling. I bet big on the Cubs.
Were you born yet, Wesley?
I was conceived. Well, you asked.
That's right. You are 10 years younger.
Just a twinkling.
That's right. My gosh, y'all think going to the moon was good?
With many of these mechanical devices and processes, they have not yielded the level of recovery. There's one, the Newtown Creek in Brooklyn, New York, that was conceived, I guess the same year that Wesley was conceived. And now that we know that little...
I hope it's done as well.
Yes. And when the Mets did slam it out, well, the bottom line was the creek is no longer no better off than it is today or than it was in the past. And those mechanical devices have some merit in some purification. I do have some other concerns that if this was to go forward and be part of the process, then we might consider doing an open competitive bid. And if that's such the case, if we engage with an entity and supply them with electricity, and we bring them forward with this new technology, are we, and the question for council is, are we engaging in possibly damaging the transparency of an open bid?
Well, there's not a cost, so what would you be bidding?
Well, as I understand the issue, this is a company that plans to come in, do some water testing in our canals. If it were to go much farther than that, like we were to hire somebody, then clearly we would go through a separate procurement process.
Oh, sure.
We would want to make sure that this company had nothing to do with how we put together, whether it's a bid, an RFP, or whatever procurement package we put together. We'd make sure that they are insulated from that. So if we are actually looking to actually hire a company to do work for us, we will certainly make sure we go through all the proper channels of a procurement process.
Thank you,
I
Council.
would agree.
I just wanted to clarify that we weren't engaging at this point.
And thank you for asking that question.
Yes.
Any other questions for Commissioner Zork? Commissioner Zork, would you care to make a motion?
Make a motion that that we accept the pilot project offer on the Phase 1, Phase 2 concept with Greenfield Resources to welcome them to Indian River County and see if they can provide a better way to clean Florida's water systems.
I'll second that. with
Motion from
discussion.
Commissioner Zork, seconded by Commissioner Flesher. Discussion?
And that second is purely for the sampling and evaluation for the process, and at that point, we'll have a presentation to assess and see if that's the arena in which we want to engage in.
But Commissioner, did you say they might bring a truck down and actually do some?
Well, after they do the grab samples, then they would bring a mobile unit down to kind of provide the proof that it works. And then if the county wants to procure something or pay somebody to do something like that, we would go through normal RFQ, RFP processes from
Be
them.
basically like a pilot project where they'd actually use their machinery to clean some for a while, but at no cost to the county.
Correct.
Aside from an incidental electric bill.
Right.
Okay, is that
That's
included
great.
in your motion?
Okay,
Fine,
great.
that's the motion and seconded. Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you, Commissioner. On to your second item.
Second item, thank you again, Mr. Chairman. In the very near future, we'll be dealing with the surplus status of the 17th Street ball fields. Whether that property is, I know we're going to be taking a portion out for St. Francis Manor. If that's approved, then we'll have property that's left over that the county has deemed surplus. In the concept of something that came up in the prior discussion from Commissioner Davis was that if we did take those 2 fields out and we sold that property, is to look at reinvesting some of the proceeds so that at the end of the day we don't have less recreational playing fields than we currently had before the surplus property was sold. And I'd like to clarify a little bit about the fields. Over at 17th Street, part of the year they might be doing flag football, they might be doing lacrosse practice, they might be doing Little League, they might be doing T-ball. So I kind of call it a multi-purpose recreational field. And I would like to see the county considering going forward, and to guarantee a no net loss, we would have to have something in our comprehensive plan to where if we did delete a recreational facility, that we would look to replace it with a like kind or an expanded type of multi-purpose type of field. Again, if you can have a field that you can play multiple sports on, that to me is better than something being static where it may not meet competitive regulation where the fence has to be at a certain distance, certain height because of the type of tournament play you would have. This is more for the non-professional tournament youth play that we have here in the county. And just like to hear any comments or questions from any of the other commissioners.
Commissioner, I agree with you, and I think that, not to speak for Commissioner Adams, or Commissioner-elect Adams, I think she'd agree with you. But I will. So, yeah. But in addition to that, I do understand exactly what you're talking about and agree. Sometimes, in addition to just no net loss of ball fields, that especially as our population growth continues to happen, sometimes just a place, just a field, exactly, just a maintained. It doesn't even have to be, turf quality. Just a field where they can go out there and hit a ball, throw. In an organized fashion. So I think you're right on point with it. And I don't know.
On this one, I don't see why we need to put it in the comprehensive land use plan. I mean, I think we
may not.
I think it just is sort of micromanaging things. I think that this commission and I think other commissions will support recreation in this community. And to have to trip and follow one more thing, just to me seems to be a type of busy work I'd certainly like to avoid. And just in the instant case, I mean, when we talked about the ball fields on 17th Street, the way I thought we talked about it was if we sold those, we would use some of that money to make fields either in Wabasso or Hobart or something that we already own fit the standards of play for different leagues and stuff. But under a no net loss of ball fields, we would still be required to get more ball fields. So, I mean, it just makes things, in a way which, to me, just complicates it unnecessarily. And I think with all the lands we have right now, we've got enough lands to worry about actually getting them going for the next 20 years. So I just soon try to keep things as simple as possible, not complicate things, while at the same time, be happy to announce that we want to keep as many recreation projects going in the county, both on regular fields and in conservation areas as possible.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate Commissioner Zork's dedication to maintaining the level of ball fields and all that, but I think I would agree. I don't think our comp plan is an appropriate place for this for a couple things. I think it eliminates, some flexibility as you go, as things change. For example, if we had a no net loss of tennis courts in our comp plan, and now tennis may be declining in popularity and pickleball is increasing. So if we convert a couple of tennis courts to pickleball, we're reacting to the needs of the community But if we had that in our comp plan, we would have to go build more tennis courts that nobody's really using. So I think it kind of restricts us there. And then secondly, if we have a no net loss policy, I think it'd be very hard to use recreational impact fees to build new ball fields. Because if you're saying this isn't for increased demand and growth, but it's no net loss, then I don't think legally you could use impact fees.
That's correct. That would probably.
But I agree with what the chairman said. I think we're all sitting here now, and since Wesley has spoken for Ms. Adams, I think we all, I think, support the recreational aspect of what we do for the community. And I think going forward, the commission will make, the right decisions, and certainly, again, I appreciate your, support for the ball fields and stuff, and I more than agree with you there. I just don't, it's kind of like messing with your constitution. I just don't think this is comp plan worthy, but I certainly support your commitment to preserving ball fields.
All right, thank you.
And again, I agree with the chairman, but I want to commend you for bringing it forward. But in bringing it forward, I did see that there was a statement about we can show that we're serious about recreation, and agreed, and we've already heard it. We are very serious about recreation. I know that I served on the recreation committee when we had a recreation committee for many years, and it was a very proactive group, and what came out of it was that there are a lot of special interests with each field. There's an intrinsically unique approach, and I was surprised that we did not have as many baseball fields. I've asked staff to provide this colorful chart, and it clearly shows that we have 21 fields. That means that we actually have probably over 30 actual either ball fields of some type. But the angst comes in where there is a need for intrinsic specialization, the distance, the infield. There is so much more greater discussion as to what the design of the field should be, that I think that we can rest assured that we have been very serious about sports, and we have quite a few fields in Indian River County, and based on the current composition and future composition of the board, I don't think we have any threat of endangering the likelihood for availability for sports. It was brought up on pickleball. I know there was discussion on the competition frisbee as well, and I don't think that if we use our power to bring it forward to a comp plan, that we would be giving benefit to future boards that might be too constrained, and it might limit the opportunity of what we want to do for St. Francis Manor as well, to interfere with that process and what is viable. And I think we'll have to bring that for further discussion if we to move forward or entertain any discussion on putting this to the comprehensive use plan.
All right, I appreciate the comments. Maybe now would be the time to say we look at dicing up the $1 million Windsor money and saying $800,000 to expand recreational facilities and $200,000 towards completing boardwalks, trails, and...
Oh, heck, I'd like it at least 50-50. I mean, we have $2.8 million of obligations to people who we partnered with to buy the lands. And I think we need to make, I myself.
Well, I just threw something out there as
that's why,
starting point.
And I'm happy to go 50-50 right off the bat.
What was that again? I was...
Do as much damage as you can on the last meeting.
On the Windsor million, you were there when that vote took place.
And yeah, and I understand what Chairman Solari is saying, but the intent when there is that was for active recreation. It was park for park. It was there was nothing natural about the Windsor swap as far as any kind of environmentally significant land or anything like that. And the intent of that was to be, I'm going to say, for park, not just park, playground, and active, extremely active recreation. But that's going to be somebody else's fight. But just to let y'all know a little bit about that historical institutional knowledge that's stepping out the door.
Well, that's why I figured before it's completely gone,
Uh-huh.
that I would make that in the form of a motion
I'll second
for
it.
the 80-20 for discussion.
I'll
and
second that,
see
just see where it
where,
goes.
see where that goes.
Yeah. Well,
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Can you restate the motion?
The motion would be is of the Windsor $1 million that's being held by the county from a prior land swap, that 80% would go to
Active.
benefit active recreation, 20% or 200,000 would go to help fund our trails, hiking path obligations that we have on projects that are currently there.
Hey, we have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, just under discussion, I guess the issue I have is are we going to define what active recreation is? Because I would say if you have a bike trail and people are riding their bikes, that a lot of those people would say that's active recreation.
That's why I put the 200,000 towards that
Right, but,
part of the baby.
okay, but you're saying 80% to active recreation. So does that include bike trails?
Well,
Does
I'm
it
going
include
back to
jogging
the.
trails?
You know,
the
the
question
intent
is,
was.
what are we defining recreation as? I
Because
mean,
if we never define it, that million will sit there another 10 years in it, and we will have not put it to good use.
Well, I mean, if you want to have a motion, and I don't think it's actually appropriate this time because it's not noticed or anything like that, but if you want to bring up something that says, we take this $1 million and we spend it within the next 4 years, which will get staff motivated, I'm good with that.
Bring project ideas forward.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Look for that on an agenda in the near
Excellent.
future.
And it's whether or not there's playground equipment, whether or not it's, this swap was not done with, for, or around anything to do with conservation lands. Nothing. And so, but that's where, whenever, and you could go back to other commissioners and ask them about it whenever they were there. This was totally done under a recreational swap, and the $1 million was to be spent on recreation. And I know that recreation can be very broad and very diverse. But to put trails and the things that you're talking about, you could have used the bond dollars for that.
Well, we'll be using all sorts of dollars as we go along.
And you can't use those for bond dollars for recreation. And it just goes down that grain of intent that,
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead, Jason.
I do want to add that the bond dollars have largely been spent. We're down to a very minimal amount in there, maybe $100,000. So we don't have those funds available for
But I am correct that those bond dollars can be spent on enhancing those environmental purchases for recreational purposes.
They could have been.
They could have been.
And you can't use those bond dollars for recreation. So just to let you know that you talk about recreation purposes on conservation lands. Now you're talking about using recreation dollars on conservation lands, and you can use one for that, but not one for the other. And that's pretty much how the intent of that Windsor million was designed. But
I'd like to restate and modify the motion just to see what happens. The motion would be the Windsor $1 million that's being held in reserve by the county. 80% would go to what we would define as active recreation, as Commissioner Davis has described. 20% would go to improvements on conservation land property, which could include a bike trail that's on a conservation land.
And to make it simple, if you really get confused about what is recreation and what is not versus conservation lands, can the bond dollars be spent there? If they can be spent there, then it's conservation. That's how you define it. If they can't, then it's recreation.
Well, that's your definition. I accept that.
Don't make me run for commission again.
If I can just.
Okay.
I'd feel better if you took the chairman's suggestion.
Okay.
Come back at a future meeting that we can public notice it.
Okay.
Maybe come up with a list of some specific allocations and projects and a timeline. And
Well, I think
then I think we can dial it in and everybody, be on that same page.
Yeah, we could come back with a list of some specific projects that fit in both of these camps, and the board can decide on.
So I guess then I should
$1 million.
withdraw the motion versus it going forward. But I figured it was worth a.
I do appreciate it.
Good.
Yeah.
I do appreciate it.
Gentlemen, anything else?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Now that the room is empty, I can say what I really think about Commissioner Davis. And Wesley, it has been an honor privilege serving with you. We'll miss you. I have been depressed the last 3 weeks walking by your office and it being empty. I'm looking very much forward to Susan coming on board. I think she'll be great. I think this board will continue to do good things and get along, but, you know, just, I looked at Commissioner Wheeler as a mentor, and I look at you as a mentor, and I've learned a lot from both of you. And truly, despite this morning's little roasting and everything else, it really has been an honor and a privilege, and I will miss you, but good luck to you in the future, and well, I'm sure you'll be around.
Commissioner Davis, thank you for a great run.
Well, thank you, guys, and I can't tell you how grateful I am to have had the opportunity with each and every one of you and the commissioners before. The pleasure has been all mine, and I'm going to miss it. I knew I'm going to miss it. No half ways about it.
And I'm going to swing by and help you share that citrus tree.
And next mini season, I expect lobster.
Absolutely.
Across the counter.
Thank you, guys.
And with that, the meeting is adjourned.